back to painting and decorating, part 3 of painting a room. Now in this room I'm going to be using this, which is Dulux quick drying satin wood. It's not bad stuff at all. It's not the best for say handrails, because I do prefer to use oil based paint on handrails because there's a lot of grease, and water and grease, they just don't mix. So the first steps in this room are preparing the woodwork. Now we've already washed, we dusted everything down, we washed things down, we finished the ceiling, we finished the walls, but we only sanded the top edge of the skirting board so we could get the walls done. So we've now got the rest of the woodwork to prepare. Now, like I said, we've washed things down, but we only used warm soapy water. Now, that's good to get rid of a water-borne stain or mark, but then you get like oil, grease marks, water just won't touch them. And especially using water-based paints going over any oil or grease, it just won't happen. So what I tend to do then is use a degreaser. Sugar soap isn't too bad, although it's not the strongest. And then you've got other bits and bobs you can use. But some of the best stuff are degreasers. I'll just show you a couple that I use. Two products I use are the White Spirit and the Zinsser Universal Degreaser and Cleaner. White Spirit, I use that for really soiled areas sometimes with grease, kitchens, handrails, around door handles and things like that. Now you always have to wear gloves and well ventilated area. Now this isn't bad at all, this. Colour fast and fabric safe, so you know this is pretty good. It's good on grease and oil, ideal for cleaning before painting. The good thing about this is you can actually spray it on, leave it for 10 minutes and then just wipe it off, and generally that's all you need. Sometimes I spray it onto the cloth and just wipe along, leave it for a bit and then go back over it, but then you've got to let it to dry before you do anything else. You're always better degreasing before you do any sanding, because it's just a waste of time really, sanding before you degrease. So I'm going to crack on doing that, and then I'll show you what sandpapers I use for certain areas, because some areas you're always going to find need more sanding than other areas. If you've got a lot of nibs in the paint that you're going to do, you need a rougher sandpaper. If it's nice and smooth, you just need a finer sandpaper to give the paint a key so the next paint sticks to it. So I've done my washing down now, got rid of all the grease. It didn't take that long at all, and I'm now ready to sand the woodwork. So one of the most important things, dust mask. You're better off wearing gloves just to protect your hands. Now, like I was on about, smooth areas you can use a smooth sandpaper, and I've got some P240 there. And then for rougher areas you might want to use P60. It all depends how rough it is. Now some of this P60, once you've used it a little bit, it actually goes a bit smoother. So what I tend to do is I'll use an old piece of P60 and sand the woodwork with that in the rough areas, which I'll show you in a minute. And then obviously you've got to give it a dust off before you start painting. You can use electric sanders if you want. They are good, especially for dust extraction. Starting around this door casing, it's not too bad in places, but as you start looking, you'll notice your big fat lump most of it's nice and smooth, and then you get big fat lumps, a couple of runs there. So I'm going to be sanding this using the P60, the worn P60. Let's have a bit of a look up here. Now some of these bits you can use your shave hook and get rid of those, where the paint's actually just run a little bit and then stops. But generally it's not too bad. I've seen a lot worse. So this shouldn't take too long at all. Let's have a look around this one. Yeah, you can see there again, build up of paint. So you need to, you can, like I say, you can use your shave hook on some of them, or you can just use a sandpaper. I'll show you a bit of both in a minute. Moving on to the skirting boards. Again, they're not too bad. The room's quite rustic, so you've got to just go with it really sometimes. The customer is quite happy with the fact that that's the wall I fixed. So, looking good. Like I say, the customer's quite happy with the room just being brightened up and not too much fuss. So the skirtings are not that bad at all really. There's just, again, the odd little bit of a lump here and there. The odd bit of run. Right, let's crack on. I thought I'd just concentrate on this little bit here, just to show you the process, because generally it's the same process all over the woodwork. So again, you've got two choices here. You can use a shave hook with a tungsten blade. Now these are absolutely brilliant. So I'll just show you on that bit there. You can see the mark now. It's gone. But generally what I would do is I'd go around the whole room having a look where I could use this, and then I'd drop back and then give it a sand down. Now some areas, like I was saying, I use my worn P60. Let's just go over that without catching the lot with my hand. Do it on that side. There you go. Now that is ready to be touched up with a primer and then coated up with your finished paint. Well, I'm saying with your finished paint, in that case, some cases you would use a primer, undercoat, and then your top coat, which could be gloss. If you're using satin wood is generally what we call self-undercoating. So you would still have to prime that area, but then it's just 2 coats of your satin wood, and then that's it, finished. Got a little bit of a mark down there, so I've got that one. Sometimes what you find is water-based paints are actually harder to prepare and sand than old oil paint, because it's more flexible, and the oil paint actually goes brittle over time, so you find it a lot easier. So I'm going to crack on and finish this sanding, and then I'll show you what primer I'm going to use, and then show you some of the top coat going on. Most of the preparation is done now, and all I've got to do is spot prime the areas what are bare, and touch up any nails and things like that, because this stuff, anything that will rust, it'll just show through this. Now, to stop the rust, you've got a choice of the 123 or the bin primer. They're both Zinter, but that's bin primer. That's methylated spirits. That's water based. That dries really quick, and that takes a bit longer. They're both pretty good. That's better as a spot primer, and this is better if you're doing full coats on things. Now, I only need to do a little bit of touching up in here, so I'm not using a massive brush. I'm just going to use my pencil brush. Nice. Now, one of the best things I've bought recently, well, I've had it a while now, but I'll just show you. Well, it's a water bottle, and that's one reason I've bought it, because it doesn't leak. I can fill it up when I want, and it's just got the top like that, and it doesn't get any muck in it or anything like that, so that's perfect. Right, that's the top coat, like I was saying. Dulux quick drying satin wood. It's not bad at all, not bad at all. Long lasting whiteness. 2 coats in 1 day. That's what I was saying. It's what we call self-undercoating satin wood paints. Another couple of things. Got my paint kettle, stirring stick. Always stir your paint up. And I've got a couple of brushes. That's my synthetic 1.5 inch, and that is a pure bristle 1 inch. Now, sometimes I start off using my synthetic, and I see how it goes across the surface, because sometimes on sharp edges, they don't like painting sharp edges, like skirting board, the tops of skirting boards and things like that, where these seem to just do a lot better. They're softer, believe it or not, a lot softer. It's like, well, it's natural hair to plastic, so, you know, I'd rather have someone wearing natural hair than plastic. Anyway, now, what I am going to do is remove the latches off the casings to make life easier. So I'm going to do my spot priming, I won't show you that. And then I will show you putting some of the satin wood on, mainly concentrating on the skirting board, which I showed you how to fill the top edge to make it neater. So I'll show you that, and then I'm going to clean the room up and you'll be able to see the finish. So I've only got this little piece of skirting left on this side. Let's have a look round. You can see the difference there. How nice that looks. It's not easy actually cutting into the wood floor. You can use tape if you want, but it can also cause a right mess using tape, because there's an actual slight gap underneath. I mean, in some places it's not too bad, in other places it's actually touching the floor, and this floor has got quite a grain in it, so you get any paint in that and it's really difficult to get out. So if you don't get your tape right and you just go all over your tape, you're going to end up with paint on your floor anyway. That's not too bad though. Let's have a look around here. That's not paint on the floor, that. Just I need to clean up. Bit of dust. Let's have a look at the door casings. They've come up really well, they have. And that's only 1 coat, so the customer said they'll decide whether there's 2 coats going on when they see the first coat. Oh yeah, looking good, looking good. So just this piece left to do, and I'll show you how to paint that. Now, just in case I do get any paint on the floor, I've got my cloth with me. Now, going with the grain that way, it's easier to get the paint out, but again, you just don't want to get paint near it. The skirting there is really tight to the floor, so if you put masking tape along there, or the frog tape and you don't get it perfectly right, you're still going to get paint going around the edge. Especially in some of these bits, you could flood them with paint and you wouldn't know till you pull the tape up and then you've got yourself a problem. Right, like I was saying, 2 brushes there. One's synthetic and one's pure bristle. Now, I have been using the synthetic on the door casings and it wasn't too bad. It was dragging it off some of the edges, but I managed to do it. Now, like I was on about, when you're using these synthetics, you can drag the paint back off as you're literally painting because of that. See that? It's leaving quite a lot of lines in it. Now I'm going to try and shut them up. Now that's not too bad, but it's when you come onto the sharp sections, it just can start pulling up, and every time you're trying to shut them up, it makes it a bit difficult. Now, using this pure bristle, okay. Now, again, it still leaves a few lines, but I just find it's a lot softer when it comes to laying it off. And I can work with it a lot quicker. See how fast I brush then? You can't do that with a synthetic. If I did that with a synthetic, I'd have paint everywhere. I'm not saying synthetics aren't good, they're okay. I do like them in certain circumstances. But sometimes I do find a pure bristle does a better job. Now, that's why I keep both in my box, and if I find one's not doing what I want it to do, I'll use the other. Spots of paint on the floor there. Go. Right, let's cut in at the bottom. Not easy. Well, that's not too bad at all. No tape. I'll have another go with the synthetic. Again, it's sometimes down to personal choice what brush you want to use, but when you hear these people say, you can't use pure bristle with water-based paint, full of rubbish, because at the end of the day, what came first? Synthetic or pure bristle? So pure bristle has been used for 100 years more. It was the first brushes that come out. Water-based paints finish has been around for years. It's nothing new. My dad remembers them, and he's in his 80s. But I just find synthetic can actually be a little bit springy at times. See, I'm not being able to cut in as good there. Sorry if I keep going out of shot. Not too bad. I'll show you a little bit more. I'll use the synthetic. Takes you a good while to master how to use a brush. Practice makes perfect. Patience is a key, but it's not all about patience. It's about skill. And skill comes with practice. Little hole there. Sure that's woodworm. More cutting in at the bottom. What you call pure skill. Right, so what I'll do, I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to clean up and we can have a quick look at the room again. Okay, that's it for this video. The room's finished. That's what I just did last, the skirting board. And that's where the damage was, remember? Oh, look at that. And that's just one coat. So it's not bad paint that at all. The Dulux water-based satin wood. Now, let's just remind ourselves how bad the woodwork actually was. And just look at the difference here. That's what it was like. So, massive difference. I think the customer will be really happy with that.